Hello. Let's make sure I'm live. It appears I'm live. All right. All right. Bing. Hello. We got some watchers coming in. Cool. Welcome to my desktop. It's Thursday. I know the format's a little different because we're just kind of starting from scratch now. And honestly, guys, that's probably going to be the format going forward. I know Barry's just going to lock into his personal room, which is fine. And we have always segmented this hour anyway. And this hour is devoted to users who need help live, more importantly, those that were sent here by our support team, because the purpose of this hour from 12 to 1 Eastern is primarily to give people a chance every 24 hours to come in and use the chat window and access the knowledge base that we have, whether it's me or Andy or Chris hosting. And it's very difficult to support a lot of technical questions, or how do I configure questions, how do I change questions. Certainly not on the phone. The phones are basically for our accounting, and they're not traders on the phone. And chat is kind of inefficient as well. We can chat, type, and copy and paste, but if you have a question, you just come here, and the presenter, myself, will demonstrate whatever it is you need help with. So that is always the precursor to this hour. If nobody is here with such a need, then we just kind of move on to, market discussion, trading help, whatever you guys want. I've got MindMed on my screen here. I want to talk about this just to start off with. I went into the election with some election-based trades, and this was one of them. You might ask, why is this one of them? Well, actually, I can show you. Hold on a second. This is why. FDA's war on public health is about to end. Aggressive suppression of psychedelics, peptides, stem cells, raw milk, etc. This man right here, Robert F. Kennedy, joined the team, and it was just a wonderful revelation because he's on the right track to health. And what is MindMed? MindMed basically says we're going to use psychedelics to cure PTSD, mental disorders. Let's get people off these damn psychotropics, SSRIs, SSNRIs. Let's take big pharma and put them back in the corner and try something new. And does the chart confirm the story? Yeah, it sure does. Look at this, 2 days of trading post-election. The market realizes, hey, we might be in a new paradigm here for mental health, at least. So this is a stock I'm in. And I was just talking to my buddy Brian Shannon and mentioned it to him. I think he said it was starting to hit some year-to-date VWAP. Maybe that's what it was. And I never even looked, but there it is right there. Perfect. He's exactly right. So, I'm talking to Brian Shannon. What a great day. Hey, I probably should take some profits here. So I took half off. Also, half off is prudent in this case because we've got earnings today. You see that red tag right there? This is why the single stock window is important to have earnings on there. Well, it will have it by default. But that red grabs my eye and says, ooh, you've had a really good run day one, day and a half. Let's take half off. And we did. I did. Now I've got half going into earnings. It's very possible I can buy that half back down here if I want. And this is the anatomy of a trade around. Trade arounds are like stocks that are working for you. You're swing trading, you're holding, you're buying, you're selling. I was doing that a lot with SMR and the others. Speaking of, I'm currently in NNE in a second account, not in my retirement account. I don't know why I picked them versus SMR or Oklo, but those are the three that I've been trading around a lot. You can get great moves in some of these nano stocks and then jump out and jump back in. Anybody want to let me know if the chat window is working? Just so I know. I hear myself, but I just don't know if people are. I assume you'd be saying something if you didn't hear me talking. Lunar. So Andy, yesterday, hey Pepe, thank you. Bill, hello. So yesterday, Andy, see, it's a pack hunting mentality around here. He said, and Brian Shannon said, hey, don't lose sight of Lunar. When somebody says don't lose sight of something, I put in a price alert. So what did I do? I put a price alert in here this morning. Very first tick of the day, I jumped in, I bought Lunar, and then I added to it. And I've sold a little bit, maybe a fifth. Why am I loving this? Well, sideways action. The market is taking off, and short sellers are just getting roasted. 33% of this particular 53 million float. It was just kind of itching to make a move, and I watched the volume early on this morning. Everything was a go, and I'm staying in this. I'm going to call this day one. I'm looking for my day and a half trade. You can see I've moved my price alert up, obviously, to the next level of interest. I'll definitely sell some here. I'll probably sell another 20% here if we can get it today. But I want to see if we can follow through tomorrow and really squeeze. This right here is something that I will flash back and look at, and it keeps me in the good trades. It's one of the reasons I liked SMR so much as the 3 nano nukes that had a giant short float. It's coming down a little bit. Ooh, post-market earnings. I don't want to be in that. Okay, Renee, is it too late to get any of these? Yeah, I would say if you pull up a chart, Renee, and you see a stock like MindMed, excuse me, ideally, I'm the one writing the day and a half. Day one is the first day of big green and big volume. Day two, but as we start to get into the second half of day two, which is right here, by the way, these people like myself are itching to take a profit, and I already took profit in half, as I told you. So I am watching, and I'm fully betting that I can actually buy these shares back, probably down here. Now, we do have earnings, but your question is, are these in play? If you look over and you see 2 big green giant candles that have just ripped 25% in 2 days, do not ever jump in. And I would say if you're a new trader, you should write that down as the number one thing to never, ever do, is to jump in to something that's been running like that. Andy just told me he got back into rum. I'm still in this thing. I don't like it. I thinned out a little bit today. It just gets pounded. I think there's a secondary, but thank you, Todd. But yeah, Renee, just if there's anything you don't want to do is chase. So you want to find stocks that are consolidating like I did earlier. Again, I'm going to go back to Lunar. I've had 2 people I trust tell me in the last few days, don't lose track of this stock. Why? Because it's a giant short float. It's probably on my scan here. It's got to be on my scan here. It's up 14%. That's staring me right in the face. Lunar, so it's always nice to see. This is a scan that's devoted to only stocks that are short, and MindMed as well. Look at me. I'm so lucky to be in 2 of these. I won't call it luck because in my mind, both of these stocks have had a high short float. The market is ripping to all-time highs. You don't want to be short names that have a high short float. If anything, you want to be looking for them for longs, and that's what I've been doing. So yeah, Renee, don't ever feel like you're chasing the herd. If you feel like you're chasing the herd, you're not going to feel comfy for long. It's just a matter of time before the stock's going to reverse. They breathe just like an entity would breathe, and it's just the way it's got to be. So identify these strong ones. So what you can do now is you could say, all right, Renee, here's the 200-day moving average. We busted through that, and we slammed right into this big anchored VWAP that Brian Shannon showed me earlier. So anytime you get a move like this, you're just living on borrowed time. You remember the old game, musical chairs? Well, everybody up here is playing musical chairs that's looking to maximize their profits. That's why I took half, because it satisfies that emotional mental demon. But what if I move my price alert back down to the 200-day right there. So what was once resistance, and this is really important, Renee, if you're saying, well, if I can't chase, where do I buy? Well, you look back, it was once resistance will probably become future support. And so I'm going to use a price alert and eyeball and gauge. Maybe I get an opportunity to buy this down here back. And if by this time you're going to have these moving averages coming up to meet the price. So it's important, I think, to stock names, be a stalker, and you can use the My Liked list. You can press the heart symbol on any chart. I just turned that one back on, and it will go onto your My Liked list of watch stocks. So, always a good question. I'm certainly happy to help brand new traders save the pain and anguish of seeing something running and then jumping in for fear of missing out. FOMO will do you no good in this business. You've got to be contrarian and kind of one step ahead of the crowd. Bill, I had Lunar. Thank you very much. TI. I'm not always good at acronyms. Okay, and I've been in MindMed from what it was way higher, down big. Yeah, Bill, you've heard me and Michael Noss talk a lot about that. Two different approaches. Michael Noss is hardcore investing, and I can never sit in something that's just not working anymore. Case in point, DJT, I took great profits in that, but the selling yesterday just scared the hell out of me, and today's continued selling. I took what I had. Guys, I literally had this price down here, left this on the table, but better that than nothing. So now I've kind of retrained my mind. I've got new cash I can flip and turn over and buy something new tomorrow, and just kind of clear the decks, which is important on a day like today with FOMC coming out. Yes, welcome, Renee, and I'm very happy to help. Another thing that can help new traders. Well, you're watching. Let me just say, a lot of people are pretty smart and they come from other backgrounds and they go, I'll pick this up. Let's go. And they start jumping in with real money. Well, they learn real quick that they need some reps and some hours to practice. By the way, I kind of like this game. I'll get back to that thought. Why do I like this game? Well, it's saucering above the 200-day. Right? It got ahead of itself right here. All the people that buyed here, Renee, what do you think? They're not happy right now. They're just trying to get back to even. But this is a wonderful example of a pullback, and it's starting to go. So we all know the story on GameStop. Is this the real short float, or are there hidden shorts in there? I don't have any buying power today, but I'm going to have a shitload of it tomorrow. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this little high of chopsticks here, and I'm going to mark that. And if I have buying power tomorrow and this thing breaks through, I'm going to participate probably. So, Renee, this is me anticipating something that very well could go. We want to look for these consolidation patterns. I love it when the price just is hanging out like a bird in the palm here above the moving average, 10, the 20, and the 50, all turning up and being supportive instead of suppressive. Here's RUM coming through. That's not really doing anything. So with FOMC today, guys, I had no problem selling a big chunk of everything. I probably went from fully invested to about 35-40% cash. Well, actually 60% cash, 40% stock. It's been a good run, and I just kind of want to clear the decks because I can always get back in. I want to lock in some stuff that I had and stuff I didn't like. I had way too much rum earlier. This was a 20% position, and I just got tired of being kicked around in this thing. It's been pretty volatile. So I brought it down to a reasonable 10%. And now I don't really care what it does. And that's another important point is, liquidating down to the point of being able to sleep. Kodak, another play. I want to talk about this. This was another anticipatory gem that I picked up, just like MindMed. I bought it down here. Why did I buy it down here? Well, I knew that it was an election play. And if the elections turned out the way they did, manufacturing is coming back to this country. If you listen to what he's saying, manufacturing is coming home. Right? Kodak is beaten down company, and I think they're on a short list of established, capital and equipment and manufacturing and all the stuff that's needed for them to pivot to what we need. You guys remember during COVID when we ran out of chlorine, we ran out of generic medicines, we ran out of other certain things. We had to rely on other countries. Well, Kodak will probably fill a lot of that void, and they're just probably waiting for their orders. So the story is confirmed by the chart. The election gave this thing a kick in the butt. So here's another trade around that people can watch for. Where might this come back down to? Well, if we look left, and we've got this high here and that high and that low, but I'm just going to eyeball, like, where would these moving averages be in a few days? Maybe right about here. So we use the price alert, and I'm setting a future opportunity to add to this trade. I'm not taking any off. I'm just trying to add to it, perhaps. Transposed. Yeah, that would be acceptable pullback. Probably something like that. So that was another one. I'm still in that. Here's my portfolio. Let's see. So I sold the BJT. We talked about Lunar. The reason I was in Lunar is because the high show. Ooh, look at that. Here's a perfect example of me using the 10 SMA here. This is day one. Day one should have momentum. And as long as the price, it tested right there, but it didn't close, as long as it stays above and doesn't close below the 10 SMA, we are golden. We are still in momentum gear, momentum mode. So if you're ever wondering, should I sell or should I get out? If you don't have a reason to, this is going to be a reason to sell here. Some, just a little bit. And I could even put that order in ahead of time if I wanted to. Regardless. Okay, so let's see. Sold DJT. We talked about Lunar. We talked about MindMed. We talked about Kodak. We talked about rum. I had way too much rum. I did not like this action yesterday at all. That was tough to stomach. So I lighten up. I'm basically back to my entry point, which was down here. I've ridden all of this volatility, and I don't like that. Okay, here's a fun one. Sector. This is a sector discussion. So AI has been strong. Well, IONQ has been a monster after earnings. PLTR, Palantir, has been a monster after earnings. These seem to be the winning 600-pound gorillas in the AI space, enterprise AI space. So therefore, those are the first tier boys. What are the second tiers and the third tiers? Well, I would say like CXAI is a third tier and BBAI is a third tier. I bought a lot of BBAI, and I only bought it because I'm watching the entire sector go crazy. And you got to know the names. Who's a second tier player? Okay, now we're talking about SoundCloud, SAUN. That's probably a good second tier player. Let's see if there's any competitors to Sound. So AI, Sound. I don't trust this thing. Not really. I would say AI and Sound are the second tier. Just looking at their charts, right? They're kind of breaking out, and then back to the first tier. IONQ, monster move. PLTR, monster move. Again, these are companies that help you with your enterprise. You hand over all the data, you throw it into their AI, and the AI spits out just wonderful consulting ideas for how your company can grow and save money. It kind of sells itself. This is the reason that we are in this boom now of SMR and Oklo and all these nano nuclear stocks that are going to be ideally providing energy for these AI centers. GLW, the trade of the week, didn't start off that well, but this is also an AI play. These guys make fiber optics, and you're going to wire these giant AI data facilities with fiber optics. So they're kind of a picks and shovel benefactor. And that's it for my holdings. Again, selling half rum, selling the DJT, selling DJT WW warrants. Sold a couple other things, took half in MindMed, took half off, took a fifth off in Lunar. So I'm in kind of a sell mode here, profit taking mode before we have the FOMC at 2 o'clock Eastern. And it could be a doozy. This is a post-election FOMC. They could come out and do something goofy. And so I don't want to have a whole lot of exposure and risk on for that known event. I do have some beat as well. This is a very small company. Earnings today, and I'm willing to risk earnings in this one. Hive. Okay, so a lot of the nanos were doing great. Cypher. They all come through here on my 401k. This is a watch list. Doesn't mean I'm in them, but all of these, Hive, Mara, Cypher, they're all Bitcoin or blockchain or mining stocks. This Mara is trying to break out of the 200-day. That's interesting. So don't lose track of these things. Bitcoin's been strong. All right. Hey, Fong, can I trade using Holly AI hands-on and you tell me if it's accuracy rate when linked? You can't link it to auto trade anymore. There was a time, but they're too complicated for most people and too many issues, and we just pulled back from that. So it's basically still a standalone alert in real time. Now remember you've got a menu here. If I uncheck any profitable, I see all the trades. And that's really the way to do it, in my opinion. But if you just want to filter out the profitable ones, you can do it like that. Now, I talk a lot in the past about how I would manage these trades as if this was a real-time alert, which it is, but you've got to execute these manually. And that means you might get a better price sometimes than an actual AI auto trade. Maybe you get a little slight pullback. But when we look at Lunar, I was just talking about the 10 SMA. And so these trades are all going to be probably with good relative volume from the AI, good movement. And all you really have to judge these things is this is what I would use. Bong, and I'll do you one better. I'll share my settings with you, and you can always try it because what I'm going to show you might help. Okay, that's my chart setting. I have two indicators. The 10 simple moving average, so that's averaging 10 15-minute candles. What's this right here? Oh, this is a little different. This is a 5-day moving average. And rather than have it up here cluttering my daily chart, I've transposed it into 130 candles, because if you take 130 candles on an SMA right there, 130, that's divisible by 5 days perfectly. So 130 15-minute candle goes into 5 days. And what that gives me is a really nice smoothed out area of interest. So this blue line is the area of interest. And look at what happens. It breaks above, it comes back, and what does it do? It tests it. It holds it and moves off of it. That's very strong. Once it does that, the 10 candle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, takes over and tells me how the momentum is doing. And I stay in these trades until the closing candle closes and stops moving higher above that line. So with that trading style, with that set of rules, let's go through these. This is a short. Okay, well, it's in the money, but look at our indicator. The indicator is holding it up. That's not what we want to see as a short, is it? So this is giving us information that, maybe this is a trade to just flat and let go if you don't like it. WWW. Well, perfect. Here's the entry. And is there any reason to get out? No. So you would stay in that trade. Here's another short. YOU. Oh my God, look at the correlation of this. This is why I use this. Sideways, 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 slam. Where did it slam? right at the declining 10 SMA. So on the short side, it's telling you this is a good one. Let's look left. Oh boy. Well, we're getting close to that support back here, and there's really nothing holding it. This thing could go a lot lower. MTCH, okay, decent entry. It doesn't want to get anywhere close to this line, so also earnings, very good to know, earnings. So it's probably going to continue with earnings perhaps, but you just stay with it until it breaks above. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them, but Fong, this is how I would use our AI in a manual fashion. Ooh, look at this. So UA might be done. There's our entry. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, we got 4 minutes. 4 minutes. If it's going to close like this, you might want to get out. And I just try to make it as simple and binary and black and white as possible. I can sit there and talk myself in or out of it, but if I just leave that rule set, I'm usually going to be okay with the results, especially on the ones I got out of early, like UA. You look at a signal candle like that right there, and if this is the bottom of the hour and it was maybe a little bit lower, I'd probably get out. And then you look back an hour later and you're like, oh, man, I'm sure glad I got out. That happens all the time for me. So that's how I would use and answer your question, Fong, on how to use the AI, because you cannot auto trade it, but you can use it as a real-time idea generator. Lunar is looking strong. Do I have an offer in Lunar? Let me see. I do. I've got an offer to sell 1978. Another 20%, it looks like, or maybe 15%, not that much. Just kind of nibbling away, giving it away slowly. I might get some off up here. And that's okay. Let's talk about that. So green, it's reaching up to ring this bell. Why not use that level as a limit order sell? Put 20% up there. There's no more satisfying feeling as a trader getting your price and waiting for somebody to go, okay, I'll pay that. And you say, thank you. That worked out well. MindMed, it's still holding that moving average, but I had to take half profits because earnings after market today. And also the Fed at 2. All right. Anybody have any other questions or want to take it in a different direction? You want me to look at a chart? You have a trading question, psychology. This rum is starting to try and rumble. What I see in Rumble here is just a stock. It did drop the opportunity to have a secondary. It's called a shelf offering for like $300 million worth. They haven't set the price yet. So it just seems like this is just like a car revving its engines here in the staging area. And as long as it just holds these lows, these higher lows, I'm happy to just let it get stupid. But as I said earlier, I took half off. I had way too much of it, and I don't like that volatility. Hey, Ozark. I got burned trading SMCI earnings. I like your idea of trading holding prior earnings. Do you always do that? Yeah, it depends on how we're doing, and it depends on how much I like the company. I love MindMed. If it's a company I didn't really know much about, you're welcome. If it's a company I didn't really know much about, I generally won't take any of it into earnings. But I've got a reason, and as I talked about earlier, the RFK is going to just overhaul our health and dietary system and our medical system and the FDA, and they're going to open up doors in this new administration to try psychedelics. So the story is there. So I'm not afraid of earnings in that one. But MindMed, we're talking about that one. I sold half in that particular case just because everything came together. everything came together because I had my day and a half, a giant win. It hit the technical resistance of the anchored VWAP from the prior high. There's just no reason to be greedy when you've got something looking at you like this. So it goes to show you every setup is different, going into earnings. But I would say for the most part, my general rule is earnings is gambling. You cannot control two things. One, you can't control what the earnings numbers are. And two, you can't control what the market reaction is to it. And many times, number two will totally confound you because there's often a sell the news event or a priced in event. So how the market reacts to earnings is a whole different game altogether. And that's really hard to game. I forgot I was going to look at SMCI for you. Let's see. So there's earnings. It is coming back, but let me say this. This declining 5-day moving average is really going to be an issue. And what's developing here is what I call the pinch play. So you've got my two indicators corralling and cornering, like herding sheep into that corner. So which way is it going to go? So you wait for the first, maybe one, maybe two definitively closing candles to give you maybe a hint of the resolution. Now, in this case, SMCI has been beaten up. And like I said earlier, maybe the reaction to earnings is so far priced in. They've been kind of buying it back slowly. So, yeah, it is gambling because you lose all control whatsoever. I feel like I have control when I'm playing. I know when I can press. I know what I can get out. I know where my downside is, but overnight, over earnings, it's a vacuum right through your downside, and it doesn't care about. Yeah, I don't know if you're still in it, Oderzork, but that's what I would be watching. You're like, oh, do I just try to get out here and get back to even, or do I wait for more? That's where I use this pinch play. Let it tell me what to do. If I try to guess right here, I'm probably going to be wrong, and I'm going to be pissed for the rest of the day. So, always kind of see what the next hurdle is going to be. And in this case, it's going to be that. Okay, you're still in. So let's go SMCI. Okay, so your price is 30. Got it. There's no reason to think you can't get back to even. So stage one is to resolve this pinch play, right? Well, if you do resolve it, where are you going next? You're going to come say hi to this daily and slam right into this daily downtrend of the SMA. If I was trying to just get back and milk myself back to flat and not try to just try and make an artful escape, I would use a touch. The minute the price touches this downward sloping 10 SMA on the daily, I would say that's probably the best I'm going to get for a bad situation. That's how I would handle it. And it could very well have a nice oversold relief bounce right into that moving average. Okay, Fong, sorry, when I subscribe to the premium, I'd like to receive AI alerts with risk setting of 1-2% per trade. I manually set the entry in it. Yeah. Yeah, I think it would help. Look at it this way. If you're gonna, I would say 2% is probably more realistic, but try to make 5 or 6%. So you're risking 2% to make 5 or 6. Risking 1%. Oh, what's happening here? Oh, look at that. I got sold on Lunar. As you're talking, you're making money over here, and people are reaching up and grabbing what you have because you took the risk early. So I sold some Lunar at 978. I still have, let's see. I still have about 3/4 of it. But it's going to run right. See, I kind of front ran that blue line. That blue line is the prior high back here. So now I fully expect, since I've taken off, only 25%. I'm going to sit with it because I really want to see what happens. And when I look back over, this keeps me in the trade, 33% short. Imagine if you were one of these short sellers and you just keep thinking, please come back, please come back. If I lose this level, oh my God, all the people that are going to buy this thing, I better get out. And so that's how the anatomy of a short squeeze can develop. So I'm going to stay in my 3/4 of this in hopes of a short squeeze. Now, it might theoretically just do this for the rest of the day, and I'm okay with that. Just close near highs so I can get some hope for follow through tomorrow as people see it overnight. So Fong, yeah, 1.5% to 2% stop, but don't get out early. You got to try to, risk one to make two or three even. If you can risk $1 to make $3 and get that, there's no stopping you. But when you start risking $1 and then taking $1 and, the bad ones don't pay for the good ones. You need the good ones to pay for the bad ones. And what I'm talking about here is the way to stay in these trades. And Lunar's up 17%. I participated in most of that. Probably being a bit too greedy here. Let's see here. I think I am being a bit too greedy. Let's sell some more. Can't go wrong selling more. So I'm constantly looking at the next area of interest, right? Prior highs, pivot points, breakouts, my 5-day moving average on the intraday, and most importantly, the momentum line, the 10 SMA. And Fong, you could also take what I'm showing you, the 10 and the chart that I gave you, and the 10 and the 5-day moving average. And as the AI calls out a new symbol, you pull it up and you look at it. You process it on that set of indicators and see how it looks. Like maybe it's a short sell, but it hasn't broken the 10 SMA yet. Well, you could maybe watch it, wait for it to break the 10 SMA for confirmation, then participate. So you have the ability to not be, subject to the entry every time. It'll help you identify the right stock to be watching, but using your entry and exit skills. And back to Renee, never really finished my thought on the Brokerage Plus. Make your mistakes cheap. Sim trading. Simulate your trades and make them cheap, meaning they don't cost you anything when you lose. And ideally, if you make a couple of revelations and learn a few things, you do that. I'm a golfer and I love going to the range and I love working on things. So when I go play live, that I've kind of already rehearsed that and it's familiar to me. It doesn't hurt my score if you don't want to be trying new things on the golf course. You don't want to be trying new things with live money. Use the simulator in the golf range to develop that. So again, we've got the market at 2 Eastern. FOMC, they could do something with interest rates. I don't know. Blindside us with something that wasn't expected. You never know. So I'm just cautiously trimming and raising cash. Let's see. Yeah, I'm about 60% cash. Boy, that IONQ. So you've got 22% short. So you see what a 22% short can do. Lunar has 33% short. And it hasn't broken out yet. So I'm in 3/5 now of what I had. Chewy. This was a big short squeeze at one time, but not anymore. So what we can do is we can also go around. Now, these are all up big on the day. So these aren't names you'd want to chase, but maybe we go down here at the bottom. Okay, this one's 31% short, that chart. The Groupon. Groupon's 44% short. Well, this is actually kind of interesting. I might put an alert here on Groupon. This could be a recessionary stock kind of a play. So I'm gonna start here and say I'm gonna give myself a note. 44% short. So when that price alert goes off, I remember, oh yeah, that's a huge short squeeze. And if it's going to break this trend, I'd like to know about it. So this is how if you think that you just kind of wait for a light to go off and you chase the light, because it came through an alert, that's not really how really I trade. Doesn't mean it's wrong, but I'm always kind of keeping track of sectors and names in that sector, and more importantly, how the charts look. But in this case, we're looking at opportunities of short squeezes. Some of these names might look horrible. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. Doesn't look bad. So these are all possibilities of major short squeezes. And so if you see something you like, then you use the price alerts to alert you. Hmm. And again, this type of strategy is only going to work in a runaway market. It's not going to work in a bear market. These short sellers are correct in a bear market, but they're wrong. They're on the wrong side now in a runaway bull market. But I'm content being in. Oh, look at MindMed starting to get a little droopy here midday. This is just what I notice sometimes. Day and a half. Here's day one yesterday. We're at the halfway point today, and it's starting to look a little tired. That's why I took half off. Let's see. So we've got yellow and rum, meaning earnings are coming up. Look at why the 5-day moving average is coming into play in rum. You see that? That's why I use this. It's just a level of interest, and it's telling me this thing is still being held down by its big brother. I need a couple closing candles above that flat blue line to start to tell me that maybe the buyers are coming back into play. Sure, Groupon, GRP, and what I saw over there. Well, first let's start here. It's on my scan, my short squeeze scan at the bottom. It's only up 3%. We do have earnings in a week. But what I noticed is the 50-day moving average. It's kind of like my 5-day. It's a general level of interest. And this yesterday couldn't get above, but today it's poking its turtle head out. And if we close green above this declining 50-day, that's like a shot across the bow to these people. Oh, God, I didn't even see this. 22 million. That's pretty low. I'm definitely interested in this name tomorrow. I don't have any buying power left today, even if I wanted to. Well, in another account I could, but I'm just going to hope this thing settles and then maybe it makes a move tomorrow. And if it takes out this price alert, I think you guys should be aware I'm probably going to be participating because it's breaking a technical downtrend. One, it's a recessionary stock. Okay, there's the story. Two, giant short float under a very small number of shares. That's a big 5-star golden. And what we're doing is, back to Renee, we're finding opportunities here rather than chasing the ones at the top. Lunar and IQ. So you're like, well, how did you see these before they went? Well, they're on here. They're just not showing their hand. They might be buried down in here, and we have to kind of look and find out. As long as the market remains strong, look at this 5-day moving average, just capping it, kneecapping it. But it's trying to come back. If it broke through, that would be a positive sign. Speaking of SMCI, that's still sitting in that pinch play area. No resolution there. All right, well, I'll be here, another 15 minutes, maybe 10 at the least, I'm sorry. So if you guys were holding on to something or a question or a chart, I can help for another 10 minutes. And I'd best be down the road. My XRP and XLM are doing well. Also, I think in Bitcoin, also doing well after the election. Curiously, though, Patrick, why the hell is silver gap down yesterday? That was a really confounding one. I wasn't in it, thank God. I've kind of given up on trying to play silver or any silver stocks. They're just too hard. All right. Well, if you're late joining, we're going to be doing this every day, even though if Barry isn't live simulcasting from his room on the YouTube channel. One of us will fire it up at 12. How many of you have seen the new chatbot? That's GPT 4.0 running. Remember, I was just talking about Palantir and IONQ. Well, we had a overseas contractor spend about 3 to 4 months. I'm going to do a video on it. I'll look at Kava in a second, and build us something after we submitted them all of our emails, all of our chats, all of our documentation, all of our YouTube videos. And this thing compiled it and created a chatbot. Can you show me how to find good short setups? See, there's our question and answer period. Get back to thing. And then links. Do you have a video on setting up gap filters? Okay. I guess it gave us the link on that one. And there's our personalized trade. Anyway, you guys are welcome to play with that. It's important to be logged in, though. If you're not logged in, you get like a basic, give us your email. We'll give you a couple of basic answers kind of a thing. All right, so Kava. Let's look at Kava for Izzy. Daily chart is strong. What do we got here? I forgot what they do. Oh, they're restaurants. That's right. Interesting business segment, though. Restaurants. I would think people aren't eating out, but this tells us otherwise. Earnings are coming up. Minor short float, 10%, not bad. It's a nice trending stock. It's running into trouble here, of course, because it's not gonna cut through that like butter. It's probably gonna buff it around a little bit. You just want to keep above this 20 SMA. It gave you a few days of caution there, but never came down and found the 50. And now it's trading back up here, as I call it, in clean air. There's no moving averages above. So it might just kind of stay in a holding pattern, but at some point it's probably going to try and test those prior highs. We got a Kava next to Whole Foods in La Jolla. Never been there. Are they a specialty group? If it's in La Jolla, it's certainly not cheap. Zoe's Kitchen. Okay. Maybe it's a recession-proof restaurant. I think I see Lunar pulling back a little bit, and that gave us a good feeling to get out up here in your highs. Maybe not. Still hanging in there. Your long puts. Okay, so let's go back to that. See, it always helps me when you guys tell me that, so I can maybe give you something to look out for. What you need, step one, you see how yesterday and today it's been holding our momentum. Momentum is keeping this thing afloat, and you've got kind of a cup and handle here. So intraday, it's still looking kind of bullish. However, above 140, it did spike and reject. It did reverse. So if it does that again, you really need to see a reversal. But step one is to break this 10 SMA. Step two, which is even bigger, is to get back below the 5-day. And as you can see, the 5-day, it's been holding it it's rounding its bottom now, and the average's slope is turning back up. You can see how it came into play and acted as support here. So you need to come back and challenge this 5-day and break it. This looks bullish intraday. I could see a case for it try to go, but whether or not it follows through, that's to be determined. We don't know. thought we had some videos in here. There we go. I knew there was a little bit more rich imagery in there. It's basic. We're going to build this out to where it is not just a small window, it can expand as well. So that's just kind of the first iteration of it. All right. Hello, Nolani ASTS. Any input on this stock? It has been plummeting. Hello. Happy to see what it is doing. Okay. So technically speaking, you heard me talk a lot lately today about this 5-day moving average. And so the first thing I see is it can't get above this. So yeah, you're right. It's definitely under pressure. We have to look left and we see that it took out this floor. However, the day's not over. And one of the biggest mistakes I made early on was, as a swing trader, was seeing it break down here. And I said, oh no, it broke that level. But I never gave it a chance to at least recover. And by the end of the day, if you've got yourself just a nice long wick, well, that's bullish. But we don't know. We're still 3 hours away. So, if you're hanging on, obviously we don't want to see this thing go back to lows. But there's a case to be made here. I'm just going to draw the line so you can see it. There's a case to be made, and this is what price action does. Price action will look to find a way to test a break in the ice and see if there's any resolve underneath that. And many times there's not. And that's kind of the algorithms and the way they trade. They love to go down and run the stops. Citadel and some of these bigger houses that kind of know where all the stops are. So what I don't know in the moment is this a stop hunt that's going to bounce up and close back above 22? Or is this going to roll back and go over to lows? I would say if it goes back to lows, you probably don't want any part of it. But if it can, by a miracle, hold on today and bounce back up and give you a wick where all this red disappears, you have a nice long wick here instead of that red, that is kind of bullish, or at least it's contrarian and brings up, the possibility of we're talking reversal. So when you see big long wicks below key areas of support, sometimes those can be a stop hunt and a reversal in hindsight. But in the moment, which is where we are now, we don't know that, and it makes it hard. So one of the things I've done and forced myself to do as a swing trader is try to wait for the closing candle. And at 5 minutes to the close, I'm getting rid of things that don't bounce or don't do what I want them to do. But at least I gave it a shot. So, if it goes to lows, I don't like it. But, if you're sitting at it here, you might as well see what it can do into the close. And if you do get a big bonus of a wick, then you'll be happy. We can do one more for Dawn. Good job, Bill. Took off loaner, used profits. Thoughts on SoFi, and then we will have to go to meetings. Looks very strong intraday, coming off earnings. Look at that rejection wick. That's what I'm talking about. A nice reversal. In hindsight, those big long wicks are reversals. Another test of the 10 SMA passed. Very good pass. Boom, boom. So big gap up yesterday. At this point, you've got this as a backstop behind you, but it depends on how much more you want to squeeze out of this thing. We haven't tested that yet. So it's possible we could come test 12. And once it does that, depends on what you want to do with it. I'd maybe take some more off, but the minute it breaks down this 2-day hold here, it's a nice kind of a bowl. But if it breaks that pattern down and starts to dip below 1220, breaks below 12, you probably want out. All right, guys. Barry's not here to rescue me today, but usually this is the time he comes in. I got to get a break, and then I've got 2 meetings for the next 2 hours. So it's another reason why I'm a swing trader. I can't babysit these things all day long, but I keep an eye on them, and I set price alerts to alert me when things are happening. And that's about it. So we grew a small audience from 0. That's good. We'll do it, continuing to do it every day. as people come by our homepage and they use that chat bot, there's a lot of reminders in that chat bot to come by here each day at 12 noon Eastern. So, all right, everybody, I think I'm going to have to leave now, but thanks for your participation. And we'll see you tomorrow with Andy. He'll be in there tomorrow. Volume bar and rum. All right. See you later. Bye.